Hello and welcome to Editing with My Wife, now with far too many words. I'm the Hooded Philosopher and I'm here with Cheesy Loops.
Hi!
Cheesy Loops, what's going on with this one?
In this one, walls start coming down. What happened in the last chapter, Hooded?
In the last chapter, oops.
Oh. Pushing buttons.
They go to the other side of the school and talk to their friends and then get some new friends, and then they take their new friends in, and while they're ripping down the school they find a book, and the book is a trap, and they sprung the trap on them.
It's a spooky book.
The oven exploded.
It's a spooky book.
Yes, this is the book with the soul of a dead child.
They were doing experiments.
Like, I don't know, Klefki, one of those weird-ass Pokemon you love so much.
Phantom.
Yeah, all them creepy Pokemon. The ice cream one.
Phantom is...
The balloon. Oh, the balloon will kill
No,
every
Phantom
child.
is the soul of a lost child who inhabited a tree stump.
Yeah, but this was a book put by a malevolent man.
Yes.
A little different than the wandering tree spirit.
A lot of the ghost Pokemon in Pokemon are... I know, I just said that funny.
This is another long chapter.
They have some pretty crazy backstories. Alright. Chapter 35. Rohan of the Endless Sun. Rohan.
Rohan. I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
How you say it in your head is the right way.
Yes. But I like Rohan. I like Rohan. Rohan reminds me of Dragon Ball Z.
Okay. I don't know anything about it.
Gohan.
Let me see.
That's where I think of it as. So, alright.
Go, Rohan.
After ripping down most of the tunnels into the school, the three came upon a door. Bruised, exhausted, and determined, Nathaniel, Draylin, and Marcus was going to walk into the trap, knowing full well that there was some trick in the next room. Nathaniel kicked it down, breaking it off its hinges. Inside was a stone table with the body of a muscular man covered in a cloth. There was a force wall projected across the back wall. Behind the force wall stood Frelick the Vile. I have conceived of your worst nightmare, he said, taking a sip from the flask he kept in his pocket. Now with the crafter's glass I received from our God, I will show you why you should fear me. Frelick the Vile of the Sun. The new title he bestowed upon himself became clear when he touched the heme iron sigil connected to the table in front of him. The table became an inferno instantly. Nathaniel's stomach dropped out when he saw the most awful sight and heard an awful sound. The familiar bwahaha erupted from the flames. Inside held the burning vision of Rohan the Brash, tattooed runes glowing in a way that stood out from the fire. It told a story of love and hate coming together to consume the sun. The sun shone an eerie blue juxtaposed to the bright fire that consumed Rohan wholly. "What have you done?" Nathaniel screamed over the roar of the fire. "Don't you recognize your lord, Rohan the Brash of the Endless Sun?" Frelick shouted in response. "You performed necromantic tattoos on your own lord?" Marcus said, then covered his mouth in shock. "Can we even kill him?" Draylin asked, resting his hand on Nathaniel's shoulder. "I need some Oh, that's wacky. Sorry. I need some stone liquor," Draylin said, as Nathaniel handed him a small sack of liquor. He swallowed it whole and handed the sack back to Nathaniel. He placed his hands in front of his, and large sections of the wall came out, blasting the force wall. The familiar glint of the rune connection points glowed within his vision, too many to take it down. Rohan stood back up in... Sorry. Rohan stood back up, the flame still burning strong. Draylen looked around the room. I never thought I would use this much crafter's glass, but now it seems to be a time I need to touch the heme iron spike on his body. I could shut it off. He took the small bit of crafter's glass he kept in his pocket. The bitter crystal took effect immediately. The heme iron spike glowed like so few things do for him. Marcus blasted him with fire again and again. He braced himself this time. When Marcus let up, Rohan bolted for Nathaniel. Nathaniel saw him coming and had enough time to put up a barrier of light all over his body. Excuse me. The light was enough to block the heat and fire only briefly. He placed Lion Tamer's point to Rohan's side and slipped out of his grasp and ran towards the other two, his clothing starting to burn. Draylen ran to Marcus. "Wet my hands," he asked, splashing them with water. His hands and arms became covered to his shoulders in clay. "Let's hope this helps," he winked at Marcus, and turned to run at Nathaniel, yelling, "There's something on his back!" Nathaniel's hand reached out in passing. Draylen reached out to make contact. When he did, he was behind Rohan, who swung his arms out, making contact with Draylen, knocking him to the floor. Marcus shot out one more fireball, narrowly missing Nathaniel just enough for the blast to put out the fire that was starting on the hood of his cloak. The blast also knocked Rohan against the stone walls of the compound. Nathaniel handed Marcus nature's gift. "Here, use this to hold the spike still." He accepted it, saying, "I am grateful for this gift." After he consumed it, he held his hands out in the direction of Rohan. Rohan covered his head in agony. Draylen got up and politely said, "Will you just die?" before walking around to his back. He reached into the fire and placed his finger on the heme iron spike long enough to send the shut-off signal. The fire died down, and the three of them took a deep breath and looked to the force wall. Frelick was gone. Draylen took a swig of the mountain water. A boulder took form above the burnt corpse of Rohan. It fell with a crunch on Rohan's head. "I hope you don't mind I obliterated Rohan, but I figure it's hardly killing if the person is already dead," he said, looking at Nathaniel, whose squeamish nature took over, who was looking away from the grisly scene. "It's fine, Draylen. I just really don't want to watch it happen," he said as he walked to the ruin wall and began using a magic kick.
I don't know. I don't know what just happened.
You just shifted it down. This is where you wanted to do something. Okay. He said as he walked to the ruin wall and began using a magical kick. Began smashing the runes that formed the force wall. Eventually the wall fell, and they continued through the door on the other side. The next room held a large circular table with a large runic contraption above it. They pressed on, cautious of any more traps. The next room, as Draylen ripped the last door down. The next room held small runic tools that were on display with plaques describing how the runes worked. They pressed on. The next room took them back to the rest of the main tunnel. Draylen began drinking the last of his mountain water. Then he began the process of ripping the rest of the walls of the awful place down. Marcus looked at Nathaniel as they jogged to keep ahead of the destruction. "When we get there and they learn that we're alive, then Anthos is going to kill them." He stopped and sent Draylen the signal to stop and came running over. "She made a good point. We needed to beat Frelick to Anthos or something bad might happen." Yeah, that's fine. This is a little littered with some fixing. "Made a good point. We need to beat Frelick to Anthos or something bad might happen. You two ready to get in and rescue them while I continue tearing down the walls here?" Marcus winked at Draylen and laughed. "I'll go anywhere with this killer." He touched both of their soldiers and sent them inside the gates of Sword.
Not sure what that means.
Nathaniel clapped in the direction of the tunnel he needed to destroy. A small ball of light began pulling in the rocks. He held it out as he walked, tearing down the walls as he went. Marcus appeared on one side of the room, full of tables and chairs. Draylen was on the other. There were 2 doors behind himself, and the other behind Marcus. From the door behind Draylen came a gruff voice. How do you kill something that's already dead? They killed him, Anthos. They froze the sun for judgment, then removed Rohan's heme iron spike. The evil voice of Frelik came through as Marcus approached. Well, if they don't want to die, then I'd better kill their friends, Anthos said as he approached the door. Someone's gotta die, Frelik added, following behind Anthos. Before they could make it through the door, Draylen had consumed a small dab of powder of creation and summoned a large stone block in front of the door. Marcus ran through the other door. Sitting between 2 men was the trio of the boy, Ella, and Tresca. He threw 2 axes, bearing them into the skulls of the 2 men holding them in place. Once they were free, Tresca stood up and brushed off her skirt and picked up her pack from the corner. Ella grabbed a small brick of steel out of it. She broke a piece off of it and quickly sculpted daggers. We blocked the door, Draylen said as he crouched down to touch the floor, stone jutting up, blocking the only entrance or exit. Like that. Ella asked Tresca for the weapons in her pack. Tresca handed Ella the pack, to which the boy was eager to get his hands on Twist, what he called Grolic the Thundering's old hammer. When he gave it to Tresca, he didn't know if he was ever going to get them. A booming came from the other side of the stone slab where the door was. We appear to be running out of time, Draylen said, taking a swig of his mountain water. Ella took a crunch of the crafter's glass. Its bitter taste foretold the glimmer of runes. She put on her gloves and began to glimmer. She put on her gloves. The back began to glimmer. The boy sat in the back of the room. His fear rose no higher than Twist could reach. He made hand motions to Draylen, saying, I'm behind you. Don't forget. Thank you was all he could muster of the language Nathaniel and the boy had been teaching him. The boy smiled, knowing he was safe now that Draylen had his back. Draylen began formulating a plan. He motioned to the boy, Give me the hammer. The boy handed him the hammer. Draylen twisted it to a rune his crafter's glass eyes could see that the boy could not, and handed it back. This will stop people from being able to hit you easily. Just stay clear and behind me, he told the boy in the hand language. The boy understood and stayed back, ready for whatever was going to try and attack him. Draylen began covering the door in a pile of stones. Ella tapped the left glove to her forehead, and she rapidly vanished, only her small iron daggers glinting awkwardly in the natural sunlight that was shining from the holes above them to the surface. Tresca walked over to where the boy was standing. Marcus and Draylen looked at each other. A notion seemed to coalesce in their minds at the same time. The stone near the doors began grinding into a fine sand, and Tresca began flooding it with water, making a very messy and slippery mud. People began teleporting in. A nasty chaos ensued. Draylen was on his game. Of the 6 people that had teleported in, 3 of them were covered in mud. Draylen threw a spear that flew rapidly, hitting 3 of them on the head, knocking 2 to the stone floor, and 1 to a bloody, muddy death.
It's a fun statement, isn't it?
Sorry. I try not to react to things, but that was funny. Marcus touched the spear to a necklace and threw a spear so hard that it went through the shoulder of a mud-covered soldier, pinning another to the stone wall. My kryptonite. An eerie sound erupted from the other side of the stone pile covering the door. It was an infernal grinding sound that spoke of incipient doom. The last man had gotten close to Marcus, but Ella's gleaming blades flashed before, only briefly, and because Marcus knew what she was looking for, he thanked his sister in arms with his hands palms together pointing outward. The grinding sound became apparent when the stone masking the door began moving. 3 people teleported in. They only saw 2 of them at the entrance. The other was behind them. A knife flashed at neck, but it simply hit the hammer, causing a spark. The man reacted quickly by tossing a smoke bomb into the room. Some stones at the entrance began exploding violently. Ella took a sip of her aether water and stirred up the smoke just in time to see two men spear Marcus through his gut. Oh no! After Drellin was freed from the smoke's grasp, he swung a boulder in the direction, narrowly missing Marcus, but smashing one of the attackers squarely in the chest. The attacker's spear caught her necklace, tearing it off in a flurry. The boy brought Tresca over to Marcus. When she was firmly in grasp, Drellin took him home. The last man that appeared, Marcus.
That speared the last man, the man that had speared Marcus.
Oh, had rushed Ella. Okay, we'll fix it.
Last man, last man.
Had rushed Ella, grabbing her. Tresca froze, her clothes in place, making it hard for her to struggle. He had her by the cave entrance. A small piece of metal that was shot at them dislodged itself and fired itself at the grunt holding Ella, killing him, allowing her to scramble away just in time. Drellin was so close to the explosion that blasted all the stones out. He had caught many of them, but two hit him on the shoulder, the other glancing off his thigh. Drellin fell to the ground. Ella tapped the glove to her forehead, vanishing. She stood in safety behind the blast. The boy should have been blasted, however, the hammer was doing its job. Where the door used to be covered in stone now stood boldly open. Anthos was carrying a magical device that blasts small pieces of metal rapidly and wildly out in front of him. "Do you like it?" Anthos taunted them. "I can kill so many vile heroes." Let me say that again. "I can kill so many of you vile heroes with this new tool Frelick invented." He was giddy with excitement as he pressed the room, supplying it with the power of crafter's glass. The power was burning something in the contraption that began firing small balls of explosive material. If Ella hadn't been eating the brown leaf, she may not have had a hand. Ella's left hand covered the barrel, and as Anthos fired, she buried the knife deep into his leg, causing him to collapse to the ground. The boy sprinted to Ella's side, landing a massive blow with his hammer, knocking Anthos unconscious. Frelick began a rather spirited attempt to run away, but Nathaniel stood behind him, thunder's point at his chest. Ha ha ha. You renamed it.
Yeah.
Frelick reached for a flask in his pocket, but Ella had enough. Frelick died to a combination of sharp blades entering his skull and a stone slamming it through his head. Everyone was panting. The fight finally over. As they walked back towards the home of Sloane the Divine, Drellin brought down the ceiling, leaving only one way to go. "We did it. Now all that's left is catching Sloane," Ella said, lifting her hands in the air in triumph. Drellin was walking down the hallway, his hand making contact with the wall. A crack had formed along where his hand brushed, the top of the final tunnel collapsing behind them, leaving the bright sky to leak through. "That makes you look quite badass," the boy said with his hands to Drellin, who laughed and nodded at the boy. Okay. Scroll back up to the top. There's a lot to fix in this.
This is an endless chapter.
This is an endless chapter. This one's going to take a little bit of time. Ay, don't do that.
It's already taken about 15 minutes just to read it.
Right. So far, this first part's not so bad.
Like, what's the beats of the story?
Okay, explain what's beats of a story.
Well, the beats of a song are like when the song is like on track and relevant to the time.
Okay.
So when is this like hitting all the right spots? And what are those spots that they're hitting?
I think it's funny, but you write Frelick really well.
I can relate.
You're a vile little creature.
Well, I mean, I'm a writer.
That chair is so creaky.
You don't think about it until, you're recording everything.
I know, right? No, I think this whole first part here is done really well. As when you start getting into action, you start to slip a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Clearly. It's like mostly action from here out.
Karate Snow Machine chops it.
Chopping was most of my action. Most of the power.
Alright, so So here you say stone liquor, and much later you say mountain water.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
Like all drugs, there's multiple names for the same thing.
Okay.
Sometimes.
So here, real quick, delete it back up to where.
I see.
Okay, and then. Oops, sorry. Delete that. So that's much better. Can we even kill him? Draylen asked, resting his hand on Nathaniel's shoulder. I need some stone liquor. Nathaniel had him a small sack of liquor. He swallowed it whole and handed it back to Nathaniel. He placed his hands. Okay. He placed his hands in front of his.
In front of him.
Okay. And large sections of the walls came blasting out to the force wall. The familiar glint of the rune connection points glow within his vision. Too many to take it down. Oh, that makes sense. You having fun trying to type him? No, get rid of
Well,
large sections of the wall.
Just one large. Just like a big.
Okay.
Boom.
Rohan stood back up, the flames burning strong. But now seems to be the time. I just need to touch the heme iron spike in his body and I can shut it off. Boop. So far, it's not like the worst of it. Blasted him with fire again and again. He braced himself. Bolt for Nathaniel saw him coming. Had enough time to put a barrier of light over his body. Light was enough to block the heat and fire only briefly. Draylen ran to Marcus. Became clay, which it's pretty clever. He's turning the rock into clay so that way it helps him with the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very, very clever. There's something on his back. This was pretty good. Marcus shot out one more fireball. Just enough for the blast to put out the fire. Which is funny. He shoots a fireball at Nathaniel and it puts fire out.
Fire with fire. The blast did it.
The wave.
The wave just knocks it out.
Yeah. Just close enough that, okay.
Like if it hit the wall, put out some small flames.
This is cute. I'm grateful for this gift. That's really cute because it's nature's gift.
It's a ritual from Lancastria. It's not something you would normally hear. But they never really received a gift of it. Until then.
Well, and then Ella also does this.
The same thing. They're from the same place.
They're very ritualistic in some of the stuff they do.
Yes, Lancastrians are very ritual.
And you don't see that with anybody else. You've done really well with that. And Tresca tips into it, but she's...
Here it's mostly just chaos.
Yeah. Tresca tips into it as a sign of respect to her friends. So, yeah. No, you do very well with that. Covered his head in agony. Will you just die before walking around to his back? He reached in the fire. This is funny. Can you just die? Frelick was gone. Took a swig of the mountain water. A boulder took form above the burnt. Yeah, and he squishes him. I don't really want to watch it happen, he said as he walked to the ruined wall and began using a magical kick. Okay, and began using a magical kick, began smashing the runes.
With a magical kick, began smashing the runes.
And with a magical kick, yeah. Eventually the wall fell and they continued through the door to the other side, the next room. Okay, so this is a lot of next rooms.
Okay.
So, and one of them, it happened so quick that it, like, why we're even talking about that room. So, let's see. Wall fell, and they continued through the door on the other side. Fine. The next room held a large circular table with a large runic contraption above it. That's good.
Very large things in this room.
Yes. They pressed on, cautious of any more traps. The next room, as Raylan ripped the last room down. It's that sentence right there. The next room, as Raylan. Oh, they pressed on, cautious of any more traps.
In the next room.
In the next room, as Raylan ripped down the last room down. Okay, so.
Yeah.
I tried to catch that T and I didn't. But it's still next room. So what? I'm gonna try to figure out how to get rid of this next room here, right here, which is they pressed on, cautious of any more traps. As Draylen ripped the last room down. That's fine.
Yeah.
The next room held the small runic tools that were on display with plaques describing how the runes worked. They pressed on to a room leading them to the rest of the main tunnel. They pressed on. The next door took them back to the rest of the main tunnel. Okay.
They pressed on the next door, yeah.
Okay.
It's a comma.
That feels better. Ripping walls fell placed down. Marcus looked at Nathaniel as they jogged to keep ahead of the destruction. When we get there and they learn that we're alive, then Anthos is going to kill them. How do they know that them is there?
Them?
Mm-hmm.
Anthos and Freilick?
Nope. Let me read the sentence real quick. When we get there and they learn that we are alive, then Anthos is going to kill them. Who's them? How do they know they have them?
That's kind of a needless line.
Yes.
Entirely.
But they trying to get to Anthos quick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
He stopped and set Draylen the signal to stop and came rushing over. Nathaniel paused and set Draylen the signal to stop and came running over. He made a good point. We need to beat Freilick to Anthos. Oh, just get rid of he made a good point. We need to beat Freilick to Anthos or something bad might happen. That's better.
Okay.
What? Yes. Yes. Period. I'll continue tearing down the walls here. Marcus winked at Draylen and laughed. I will go anywhere with this killer. He touched both of their shoulders and sent them inside the gates of Sword.
Yeah, I don't know what that's supposed to be. I think that was a long time ago. I had the idea of naming the
different sections of the
school. And I just dropped it because this isn't Harry Potter. It doesn't really matter what's going on inside the school.
Okay, so where would he send them instead? Like, how would you change that? Sent them closer to Anthos? Where Anthos is located? Because that's where they're going. They're going to the opposite side of Nathaniel. They're going to meet Anthos in the middle. Not the other side of the room because they're not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's not really the other side of the room. It's more like the other side of the compound.
Yeah, kind of. Nathaniel clapped in the direction of the tunnel he needed to destroy. A small ball of light began pulling in the rocks. Woo! He held it out as he walked, tearing the walls as he went. That's fine. Marcus appeared on one side of the room. Full of
What
tables.
else isn't working?
Oh, sorry. Oh, it really wasn't working. Of a room? Full of tables and chairs. Draylen was on the other. There was two doors behind himself and the other behind Marcus.
One behind himself. What's missing an E?
Oop, wrong E. Behind himself, the other behind Marcus. From the door behind Draylen came a gruff voice of, "How do you kill something that's already dead?" Okay.
It's not gonna work.
It's not gonna work. They killed him, Anthos. They froze the sun for judgment, then removed Rohan's heme iron spike. That's so beautiful. How would he say it in his voice? Do it. Ow! You are Freylik. You are evil and vile.
I just have to say it like this, don't I? They killed him, Anthos.
Well, if they don't want
the sun for judgment.
If they don't want to die, then I better kill their friends. Uh-huh.
Well, if they don't want to die.
Yeah. Someone's gotta die, Freylik added, following behind Anthos. Before they could make it through the door, Draylen had consumed a small dab. Change this punctuation. Summoned in a large stone block in front of the door. What does it just allows him to make?
The fact that they're on the planet, he can just move it.
Maybe it's too loud to try to move it?
Is he trying not to be heard? Oh, but Proud of Creation, he can just create stone like that, too.
Yeah. Which makes sense. I just
He
was...
just keep it right there and not make any sound whatsoever.
Right. Marcus ran through the other door. Sitting between two men was the trio of the boy, Ella, and Tresca. He threw two axes, burying them in the skulls of the two men holding him in place. Once they were free, Tresca stood up and brushed off her skirt. Brushed off her skirt, and picked up her pack from the corner. Ella grabbed a small brick of steel out of it. She broke a piece of it off and quickly sculpted daggers. Had to remember what magics were happening here. We blocked the door, Draylen said as he crouched down to touch the floor.
Lots of different people here doing lots of different magic.
Yeah, there's a lot of magic being floating around. Badoop. Draylen said as he crouched down to touch the floor, stone jutting up, blocking the only entrance or exit. Like that. It's cute. Ella asked Tresca for the weapons in her pack. Tresca handed Ella the pack, to which the boy was eager to get his hands on Twist, what he called Grollick the Thundering's old hammer. When he gave it to Tresca, he didn't know if he was ever going to get them. Huh?
Get it back.
Oh, get it back. But then he just all of a sudden had it again.
It was in the pack.
When he gave it to Tresca before they came in here. Okay. Okay. I didn't know he had given it to Tresca, I think.
I don't think he ever actually had it.
I see.
This is the first time he gets to use it.
He did get to see it in the slip ring with them as they were traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We appear to be running out of time, Draylen said, taking a swig of his mountain water. Ella took a crunch of the crafter's glass, a bitter taste foretold. Bitter taste foretold of the glimmer of runes. She put on her gloves, and the back began to glimmer. Okay. So far, when it's shorter, it doesn't get to be so messy. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you was all he can muster of the language Nathaniel and the boy had begun teaching him. But he had been talking to the boy for a while, and you did write this chapter a long time ago, so this is older.
He also goes on to say other things to him.
Yeah. So
kind of like
you could say
sentence.
thank you was all he can
It's just a bad sentence.
Okay. Jalen began formulating a plan. He motioned to the boy. Give me the hammer. Okay. Deleting it was fine. The boy handed him the hammer. Draylen twisted it to a rune his crafter glass eyes could see that the boys could not. Like that. Yeah. Beautiful. The boy understood and stayed back, ready for what was going to attack him. Braylon? You're not clicked. Threw a spear that flew rapidly, hitting 3 of them on the head, knocking 2 to the stone floor and 1 to a bloody, muddy death. Well, I don't know why I lost my mind there, but it's funny. And I don't want to, I want to be able to just read it and not have any issues. That made me laugh. Hold on. You scrolled too far.
Not quite.
Okay, there we go. Marcus and Draylen looked at each other, a notion seeming to coalesce in their minds at the same time. Why Marcus? Why did Marcus and Draylen have something that coalesced in their minds at the same time, but then Draylen and Tresca begin doing something? I feel like this should be Tresca.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because they're doing something. People began teleporting in, a nasty chaos ensued. Draylen was on his game. Of the 6 people that teleported in, do it. Keyboard, stop being broken.
The on his game, comma. He's trying to figure out what to put there.
I was trying not to say commas all the time. So of the 6 people that teleported in, 3 of them were covered in mud. Jalen threw a spear that flew, rapidly hitting them on the head. Okay. Touched the spear to a necklace and threw the spear so hard it went through the shoulder of a mud-covered soldier. Hey, I did it. Pinning the other to the stone wall.
Pinning another one. Because the other person pinned somebody else.
Yeah. Eerie sound, grinding sound of incipient doom. Incipient? Incipient.
I don't know what incipient is. The word that is written there is incipient.
Thank you.
Meaning about to happen. So it's like the very next thing that's gonna happen. Doom.
Get rid of that. The last man had gotten close to Marcus, but Ella's gleaming blades flashed before, only briefly. And because Marcus knew what she was looking for, he thanked his sister in arms.
Knew what he was looking for.
Huh?
He knew what he was looking for.
Oh, okay. He thanked his sister in arms with his hands, palms together, pointing outward. She's not just his sister in arms. It's his sister. Right? Yeah. They talk about him being their brother.
It's niece. Samuel and Marcus are brothers. Ella's the daughter.
They've been calling her sister this whole time. Okay.
Sister it is.
Okay. Grinding sound became apparent when the stone masking the door began moving. 3 people teleported in. They only saw 2 of them at the entrance. The other was behind them. A knife flashed at whose neck?
At his neck.
Whose neck? You don't say whose neck it is.
Point.
And it looks like it's the boy's.
It is the boy, yeah.
So the boy's neck. But it simply hit the hammer, causing a spark. The man reacted quickly by tossing a smoke bomb into the room. There was this line here. This is it. The last man that speared Marcus.
It's supposed to be...
What? Get rid of this man?
Or the last. Oh. No, the man. Yeah, the man.
The man that speared Marcus had rushed Ella, grabbing her. Tresca froze her clothes in place, making it hard for her to struggle. Why would Tresca do that? Hooded.
Because he had her at the cave entrance, and so a small piece of metal could get shot out at them and dislodge itself.
Oh, so she wouldn't move.
So she wouldn't. So he couldn't move her, or she wouldn't move and flail in the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
He had at a cave entrance. A small piece of metal was shot at them. Dislodged itself and fired itself at the grunt holding Ella, killing him, allowing her to scramble away just in time. Okay. Caught many of them, but 2 hit him on the shoulder and the other glanced off his thigh. Draylen fell to the ground. Ella tapped the glove to her forehead, vanishing. She stood safely behind the blast. The hammer was doing its job. Where the door used to be covered in stone, it now stood boldly open. Anthos was carrying a magical device that blasts small pieces of metal rapidly. Fix this.
He invented a magical shotgun.
I know, I see that. It's hilarious. Fix Freilich. Thank you. He was giddy with incitement.
I don't remember how I spelled that name.
Choo. Yeah, that's how you've done it the whole That's too far. The whole chapter. He was giddy with excitement as he pressed the rune, supplying it with the power of crafter's glass. The power was burning something in the contraption that began firing small balls of explosive material. She may not have had a hand. Ella's left hand covered the barrel. And as Anthos fired, she buried the knife deep into his leg, causing him to collapse to the ground. Landing a massive blow with his hammer, knocking Anthos unconscious. Freilich tries to run away. You want to put a Y there? But Nathaniel stood behind him. Reached her flask in his pocket, but Ella had had enough. Freilich died to a combination of sharp blades entering his skull and a stone slamming it through his head. They were all done with him. That's what that says. As they walk back toward the home of Sloane the Divine. Okay. He swung a boulder. Once she was firmly in grasp, Draylen took him home.
He can teleport things away.
That's
Maybe sent him home is a better way to say it. Took means Draylen left too. Should be sent him home.
Okay.
Marcus got stabbed, and so he sent them to somewhere he can get healed.
Yes. Once she was firmly in grasp, Draylen...
Well, it should be he, because I had to change it.
Okay.
Marcus left there.
Uh-huh.
And then... Not many people making it in this. Anyway. It's been long enough. I think we could just call it there. Do the recap.
that actually, the rest of that feels fine. It was during the action that you had some mess ups. So today we got me some Pokemon cards. And I was super happy. There was one I really, really like. Okay, so we bought myself an ETB, an Elite Trainer box of the new set. And I looked through the book to see what kind of stuff I can get, because it's always interesting to see. And We are looking for specific cards so I can do my videos. And there's a cute little Mew in there, and I wanted that one. I don't really care about the price. It's fun to know what they are, to see how rare it is and whatnot. But I pulled like the second best card in the set right now. As the set is coming out and people are buying it more often, the price will probably drop. But it's a really cute Mew card. Right, Hooded?
It is. Shiny Mew.
It's a shiny Mew in a bubble, and like, Mew is really good on that card, but the Rattata art on that card is so cute. It's so derpy looking, and I love it. Who else did they have on that card? But yeah, I like collecting the Pokemon cards. Not just making them. It's a lot of fun.
Alright.
Makes me happy. There's Oddish and Poliwag that's derpy looking. And a little Bellsprout and 2 Digletts.
It's actually one of the most hot cards right now, isn't it? From Paldean Fates.
It's the second second best card in the set. First best card in the set is
Shiny Charizard.
A shiny Charizard. Which, you know
It
what?
will always be the case, I think.
You know what? I like my card better than the best one.
Shiny Mew is better.
Shiny Mew's better.
Alright, thanks for listening.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
That was